Have you ever watched a movie thinking that it was pretty good, but the more you thought about it, the more you realized there were enough gaping plot holes that you could park a Death Star in them? Well, today I wanted to discuss 10 films that left logic at the door and credibility in the dust. You know those moments in movies where you're cruising along, enjoying the ride, and suddenly, BAM! BAM! Logic takes a flying leap out the window. Well, buckle up, buttercups, because we're about to hit every pothole on this road trip through cinematic incompetence. So just sit back and prepare to have your suspension of disbelief not just suspended, but drawn, quartered, and left for dead in a ditch. These are the types of movies that'll have you saying,
"That doesn't make any fucking sense!"
You suck, you jackass.
Thank you so much for clicking on this video to check out what this middle-aged jackass has to say. I think plot holes are more prevalent than ever, so I wanted to touch on some that are widely discussed and a few that you may have never considered. What is a movie plot hole, you might ask? I don't know, why don't you ask J.J. Abrams?
He's kidding.
A movie plot hole's a gap or inconsistency in a storyline that goes against the flow of logic established by the story's plot. Plot holes are usually created unintentionally, often as a result of editing or the writer simply forgetting that a new event would contradict previous events. Well, either way, let's stop wasting time and get to the point of this video, shall we? Coming in at number 10 is what many, myself included, consider the greatest superhero movie ever made, The Dark Knight. Now, this does have its detractors. Some are just troll-level contrarians, some don't like Chris Nolan, and some are on to something. They like to focus on these glaring plot holes, so let's talk about them. The Dark Knight is Batman versus the Joker in Gotham City. This featured an award-winning and legendary performance by the late, great Heath Ledger. There's also chaos, explosions, and moral dilemmas galore. You know, something that's absolutely necessary for a Batman movie. But there's one little problem that'll drive you mad once you notice it. The first I want to focus on is more of a semantics plot hole, but it's there and it bothers me. In the scene when the Joker crashes Bruce Wayne's fundraiser party for Harvey Dent looking for Harvey Dent, Rachel confronts the Joker, who then proceeds to throw her out the window. Batman jumps out after Rachel to save her. The scene then cuts away, and we don't see what happens next with the Joker and the party guests. So many questions have arisen during this series of events. Why would Batman just leave all those innocent people alone with the dangerous Joker? What happened to the Joker after Batman left? How did he escape? Why didn't the police arrive to apprehend the Joker?
Fuck if I know.
Of course, none of these are explained, but I suppose it wasn't necessary for the rest of the narrative because the movie moves along as if this event never happened. The next hole is better if I just show you. Like, dude didn't know that was the Joker until he removed his doctor's mask. That scene humors me more than anything else. The last, but probably biggest plot hole is a doozy, and it made me question the quality of the film the more I rewatch it. So remember when Commissioner Gordon fakes his own death? He takes a bullet for the mayor, then plays possum. But how in the actual hell does he pull that off? No paramedics check his pulse or even try to revive him. His wife and kids are left to grieve for what? No reason? What was the strategic purpose of faking his death? And he just waltzes back into a high security transport without anyone batting an eye. This does, however, add an emotional power to his big reveal. From my perspective, The Dark Knight is an all-time movie, but it ain't perfect, and if you've never thought about these issues, well, now you can't unsee them. Welcome to the club. For our next foray into this realm comes David Fincher's tale of marital bliss gone horribly wrong, Gone Girl. So I do like this movie, but I don't love it. I actually kind of think it's one of Fincher's weaker efforts, at least story-wise. It looks fantastic. So if you've never seen Gone Girl, it's about a wife who disappears on their anniversary. The husband is suspected of having something to do with her disappearance, but in a shocking twist, the wife faked it all, then returns only to trap her husband in a toxic marriage. In the end, no one wins. This movie has more plot holes than Meryl Streep has Oscar nominations, so let's go over them because they shine rather bright in the mayhem of this film. I wanted to start with after Amy slashes Neil Patrick Harris's character's throat. She then returns home covered in blood, and not a single cop thinks to check her for injuries. She claims she was held captive and abused for weeks, but apparently the police are too busy admiring her immaculate skin to notice the lack of bruises or cuts. And then there's the surveillance footage at Desi's lake house. The police and FBI apparently don't check the camera footage at his house, which would have shown Amy arriving willingly and only staying for a few days, not weeks as she claimed. There's also the issue with the wine bottle where Amy uses wine to fake blood on camera at Desi's house, but forensic testing would have easily distinguished between wine and blood. One other one is the fact that the police don't seem to do any essential forensic work after Amy's disappearance, like fingerprinting items in the woodshed or properly examining the partially burned diary. There's also a surprising lack of investigation into Amy's past. The police don't seem to have thoroughly investigated Amy's history with her previous boyfriends or her parents, which might have revealed her manipulative tendencies. Amy's also a high-profile missing person, but she travels and stays at a motel without being recognized by only making minor changes to her appearance. That one's more of a nitpick, but it stands out and it really bothers me. There are a couple more, so bear with me. So at the end of the movie, Amy claims to be pregnant with Nick's child using sperm she stole from a fertility clinic. However, do you think it would be likely that a fertility clinic would release sperm without consent from both parties? And lastly, given everything Amy has done, it's hard to believe Nick would choose to stay with her at the end, even with the threat of framing. I know it helps add to the drama of this film, but I mean, I wouldn't. Anyway, there's enough in this film to make your brain leak out of your ears, so let me know if I missed any. Coming in at number 8 is one of the most generic but fun earlier entries in the MCU, 2015's Ant-Man. So this plot hole is more of a physics question, but when I first heard about it, it took away from a lot of the credibility. You know, suspending our disbelief is pretty much the point of the MCU and this film in particular, so maybe I'm just being a nerd at this point. Anyway, the whole, it revolves around the mechanics of the Pym particles and their effects on mass. So the film establishes that when Scott Lang shrinks down to the size of an ant, he retains his full human strength, right? Which allows him to punch with the force of a bullet. However, this leads to a glaring inconsistency. When he rides an ant, he should theoretically crush it under his weight, yet he doesn't. This contradiction has really raised a lot of questions about the nature of Pym particles, specifically when they alter the mass of objects or simply allow the user to control their mass. How can Scott sit on an ant without causing harm if he can shrink and retain his strength? It doesn't make any sense. Additionally, when characters carry around shrunken vehicles, they should be as heavy as they usually are, right? Still, these films treat them as lightweight objects, which defies the established logic of the shrinking technology. This plot hole isn't the be-all and end-all, and we still have Michael Peña's outstanding performance to enjoy in this film. It's just some food for thought. At number 7 is one of the last true blockbuster comedies, 2009's The Hangover. So The Hangover is a comedy where 3 idiots lose their mate in Vegas and can't remember a damn thing. But I think there's one plot hole that'll make your head spin faster than a stripper on a pole. The plot hole in this comedy classic would make the rest of the movie obsolete, so I'm thankful for it, but it's still worth noting. So these cats spend the whole movie searching for their missing friend Doug, right? Retracing their drunken steps through Sin City. But here's where everything kind of falls apart. They all remember being on the hotel roof before blacking out. So why in the name of all that's holy didn't they check their first? Instead, these geniuses waste time chasing tigers, stealing police cars, and getting punched by Mike Tyson. Meanwhile, poor Doug's getting a sunburn on the roof, probably wondering why his so-called friends are such complete morons. Also, it's convenient that hotel staff and security cameras have missed a guy sunbathing on the roof for hours. Then there's also the issue of the mattress that Doug attempts to signal for help by throwing it off the roof. However, wouldn't it be puzzling that no hotel staff noticed this unusual activity, or why Doug didn't try harder to attract attention, especially when workers were around during the mattress removal? I will digress. I love this movie and have actually grown to like it more over the years. I yearn for comedies of this ilk at the present moment. We need some more Hollywood, please. Number 6 is the ridiculous smash hit, The Da Vinci Code. And let's be honest, this movie was huge when it came out, but it's silly. Entertaining, but silly. I haven't seen it in forever, and honestly, I have no interest in revisiting it at this point. Anyway, let's get to the plot hole. The Da Vinci Code follows Harvard professor Robert Langdon as he unravels a religious mystery that could shake the foundations of Christianity. Sounds pretty thrilling, right? Well, here's where you need to hold on to your communion wafers, because the plot hole that'll make your brain hurt, the entire premise hinges on a secret society preserving earth-shattering information about Jesus for 2,000 years. But here's the rub. They leave clues everywhere in paintings, architecture, even scrawled in blood at crime scenes. It's like they're begging to be found out. Imagine keeping a secret for 2 millennia only to play a global global game of hide and seek with it. Oh, look at the cryptex. I wonder what's inside. Surely not our most closely guarded secret. It's about as watertight as a screen door on a submarine, but at least Tom Hanks has an epic mullet and got a nice tour of Europe out of it. Also, and maybe this is a nitpick, but wouldn't the idea of Jesus having children not disprove his divinity?
Look closelier.
It doesn't hold up logically, as many pagan gods were believed to have offspring without it negating their divine status. Anyway, the Da Vinci Code sucks. At number 5 is one of the dumbest summer blockbusters of the early aughts, 2004's The Day After Tomorrow. Seriously, this movie was absolutely primed for a South Park episode.
We finished running the tests. Global warming is going to strike 2 days before the day after tomorrow.
Oh my God. That's today.
Day After Tomorrow is the movie in which Mother Nature decides to give humanity the finger. We've got Dennis Quaid playing a climatologist who treks across a frozen wasteland to save his son from the world's worst snow day. So here's the plot hole that'll make your brain freeze faster than the movie's ridiculous superstorm. Quaid's character risks life and limb to reach New York, gets his friends killed along the way, all to do absolutely fuck all when he gets there, right? He doesn't bring supplies, he doesn't have a rescue plan, he doesn't even have a packet of hand warmers. He just shows up, gives his son a hug, and waits for helicopters to arrive. If his character had never left to go to New York, the overall plot and outcome of the movie would remain exactly the same. Being a parent, you can empathize with Quaid's parental instinct to help his child, but it really is an illogical plot device to create drama without serving the story at all. Also, his son, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, manages to survive on his own by following instructions, which makes his father's journey completely unnecessary. One of the other significant issues with this movie is that there are no clear positive consequences or justification for the risky journey, which ultimately makes the whole movie feel pointless. Coming in at number 4 is the first time Disney stared lovingly into Pixar's eyes, resulting in the first entirely computer-animated movie, Toy Story. Toy Story is the heartwarming tale of toys that come to life when humans aren't around. With this frustrating plot hole, I'm sure I'm about to ruin your childhood. Or not, that's cool too. Anyway, this one's been discussed ad nauseum. It's been around for a while. But the most frustrating plot hole revolves around Buzz Lightyear's behavior when he believes he's a real space ranger, right? Despite thinking he's a genuine space ranger on an alien planet, Buzz inexplicably freezes and becomes inanimate whenever humans enter the room. And this behavior makes no sense for a character who believes he's on a real mission. Why would a space ranger's first instinct be to play dead when encountering giant beings? Wouldn't he go into fight or flight mode? I know this is a popular gripe. Even Pixar's chief creative officer, Pete Docter, addressed this plot hole, and he revealed that the creators had a lot of explanations prepared. However, they ultimately decided not to provide an answer because nobody cared enough. Well, this lack of explanation has only fueled fan debates and theories over the years. Adding to this confusion, Bud seems aware of some of his toy features while remaining oblivious to others. He knows how to activate his voice box, but doesn't question why pressing a button makes him speak pre-recorded phrases. In the end, it's both amusing and frustrating, but that doesn't detract from the movie's enduring popularity and charm. It's a wonderful film. Shooting its way to number 3 is not a good movie, but I think it's a fun watch, if anything, to see Angelina Jolie in her prime and her sexy first attempt as Lara Croft Tomb Raider. So the central plot in 2001's movie, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, involves Lara's actions regarding the two halves of the triangle artifact. So check it out. Lara's primary goal in the film is to prevent the Illuminati from obtaining and using the triangle's evil power, right? However, after successfully retrieving the first half of the triangle from the first tomb, Lara spends the rest of the movie trying to acquire the second half to destroy both pieces together. So here's where the plot hole arises. Lara already has one half of the triangle in her possession. Since the triangle only works when both halves are joined together, Lara could have easily destroyed the half she already has, rendering the second piece completely useless. This would have accomplished her goal of preventing the Illuminati from using the artifact's power without needing to risk obtaining the second half. So Lara unnecessarily prolongs the conflict by continuing to pursue the second half instead of destroying the first piece immediately. She puts the triangle at greater risk of falling into the wrong hands. Given her stated objectives, this inconsistency in Lara's actions creates a significant logical flaw in the film's plot. Essentially, it's a dumb plot hole for a dumb movie, but hot damn does she look good in this.
Rather handsome woman, I suppose.
At number 2 is Michael Bay's giant comet disaster piece, Armageddon. You know this had to be on here. So the main plot hole of Armageddon, pointed out with delightful snark by Ben Affleck himself, is the film's central premise. It's apparently easier to train oil drillers to become astronauts than to train astronauts to become oil drillers.
I asked Michael why it was easier to train oil drillers to become astronauts than it was to train astronauts to become oil drillers, and he told me to shut the fuck up. So that was the end of that talk. He was like, Ben, just shut up, okay? This is a real plan, all right? I was like, you mean it's a real plan at NASA to train oil drillers? He was like, just shut your mouth.
I mean, it's Michael Bay, what do you expect? This logic-defying concept forms the backbone of the entire film. NASA, in all its scientific wisdom, decides that the best way to save the planet from an approaching asteroid is to recruit a team of rough-and-tumble oil drillers, giving them a crash course in space travel, and send them up to nuke the cosmic intruder. Apparently, in the Armageddon universe, the intricate art of oil drilling is far more complex than the mere rocket science involved in space travel. Who knew that aim the drill at the ground and turn it on could be more challenging than navigating the vast emptiness of space? The plot hole is so glaringly apparent that it's almost endearing, much like Bruce Willis's character's insistence that NASA's nerdonauts couldn't possibly understand his salt-of-the-earth drilling wisdom. Clearly building spaceships is child's play compared to the arcane mysteries of drill bits and oil rigs. And for the final brain-smoothing plot hole is the most obvious on this list that I have yet to discuss. It has to be M. Night Shyamalan's Signs. At this time, M. Night Shyamalan was probably the biggest name in the biz, and he just killed it with The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. Signs is about a former priest who lost his faith after his wife's death and discovers crop circles on his farm. This leads to a tense encounter with alien invaders that ultimately restores his belief in God and the power of faith. But there's a major flaw with this movie. I think this would be on the level of those other two masterpieces had the twist not been so glaringly flawed. So the plot hole that drives everyone, myself included, in this film crazy is the invading aliens' fatal weakness to water. These supposedly advanced beings capable of interstellar travel decide to invade a planet that is over 70% covered in their kryptonite without even bringing spacesuits. I look at it as like humans deciding to colonize a planet made up entirely of lava, showing up naked and then acting surprised when things got a bit toasty. The issue with this revelation undermines the perceived threat level as well. The aliens initially seemed like an unstoppable, technologically advanced force, but they were suddenly rendered vulnerable by one of the most common substances on Earth. This drastically reduces the tension and fear that had been carefully built up throughout the film. It essentially makes the movie end with a thud and what was a borderline masterpiece until then. So that's gonna go ahead and do it for this one. Thanks so much for clicking this video and sticking with me while I work through this list. What would you say are some glaring plot holes that make your head hurt in movies? Have the ones discussed today ever bothered you? Have you ever thought about them? I mean, if you've seen Signs, that one had to, right? If you enjoyed what you saw here today, I'd be so grateful if you liked this video and perhaps subscribed. Be sure to check out my reviews of all the latest movies and shows on my YouTube Shorts section. I watch a lot of crap, so you don't have to. Anyway, the opinions in this video are mine and mine alone, but what do I know? I'm but a mere jackass. I'll try to do better next time, but probably not. Catch you later, friends.
That talks too much. I'm just a jackass of all trades. Don't know shit. I'll keep on talking, acting like I'm so legit. From politics to sports.